I've seen and experienced a lot of things in my time, but that is something I never like would have expected. I was never prepared for something like that. I never thought a first date could be that. Today, I want to tell you about the worst date that I've ever been on in my life. So how did it start? So I was in a coffee shop and I noticed this girl glancing over at me, and I seen her and I thought, I recognize her from somewhere, but I had no idea where I recognized her from. And I thought, maybe she's not looking at me, maybe she's looking at somebody else. Anyways, I start doing my work, I looked up again, there she is again staring. So I'm thinking, is she looking at me? There was nobody else behind me. I thought she must be looking at me. So on the way out, when I finished, before I left, I said to her, excuse me, do I know you from somewhere? And she said, I don't know. She said, you look familiar to me too. And I said, do I have your contact? Because we're living in China, so we use an app called WeChat. So I said to her, I said, do you have WeChat by any chance? And she said, yeah, I do. I said, do I have you on there? And she said, I don't know. She said, what's your name? So I told her my name. She's searching for me. She said, no, I don't have you here. So I got her name. I searched for her. I didn't have her too. But it was so strange because I really felt like I recognized her from somewhere. So I said, so shall we swap WeChats or something? Stay in touch? And she said, yeah, sure. So anyways, that's how we got each other's number, WeChat ID. And from then on, we start messaging each other. And it started off okay, you know. She wasn't the most beautiful girl. I mean, she really wasn't at all. But to be honest, for somebody like myself, I'm not like some new kid on the block. I know how things work, so I know it's not always about looks. So to be honest, I thought, well, she seems like a decent girl. She's not the most beautiful girl, but she seems like a decent girl. She's well dressed. She dresses classy, mature. She looks sophisticated. It just seems like a nice, friendly person, you know. I was just picking up that vibe. So anyways, eventually, after a few days messaging and all that, we agreed to meet up together. Now, we agreed to meet up in a different area on the opposite side of the city, which is about 30 minutes away. It's a very important, very famous area in the city. Everybody knows it. Everybody's familiar with it, those who live in the city. And I told her this location. I said, I'll meet you outside this shop on this shopping mall corner. Everybody knows this place, so it's easy to find. It's easy for both of us. However, because I never used to travel there often, especially at that time, which is about rush hour time, around 5-ish, it was crazy. And it took much longer than I thought getting there due to all the people. So eventually, as I'm there, I realized on the metro, I thought, I'm going to be late for this. This is really bad, you know. It's like our first date. So I messaged her, bearing in mind, we weren't even late. Well, I wasn't even late yet anyways. So I thought, well, if I message her now, I've give her plenty notice. I thought, and she knows to like take her time, you know. So I messaged her and I said, look, I said, there's been a bit of a delay. I didn't realize it's rush hour. I didn't realize there's so many people on the metros and stuff. And I didn't realize how long it would take. So I thought it would normally take about 20 minutes, but it was actually more than 30. Well, I would say about 30 minutes up until that point. So she said, no problem, no worries, take your time, you know, get there safely. So I thought, oh, great, you know, I knew she was a good girl. So anyways, when I got there, I was literally about 5 minutes late. But in the meantime, I was still messaging. Even within those 10 minutes, I was like, I'm just outside, I'm on the way now, I won't be long, where are you and all this. So I thought there was no problem because she's still messaging, replying very fast, having a good back and forth exchange. So I thought, great. She understands. I thought, next time, there's no way I'm going to leave at that time. I'm going to leave way earlier. But I thought, mature, understand, you know, she dresses sophisticated. She dresses like she's mature. So yeah, I thought, she'll get it. I mean, I'm not saying it's right, but at the same time, you know, we're not perfect. We're all humans, right? You know, we all make little mistakes or accidents like that. I know it's not a good impression to make on a first date, but still, it's like, it's not like I had no contact. It's not like I didn't even pre-warn her or like let her know in advance, you know. It's not like I wasted her time or messed her around. So I arrived to the spot and I apologized for being a few minutes late. And I said, you know, again, I went over what I already said in the messages. I said I really didn't understand like how long it would take. I said, especially during rush hour, usually it doesn't take that long. Usually it's much faster. I said, you know, again, just basically apologizing. And her attitude was just like, just didn't even say nothing, So I was like, just moving on. Didn't think nothing of it. I thought it's no big deal. I'm making a big issue out of nothing here, So I just let it go. I was like, whatever. I didn't think too much of it. I was like, oh, so shall we go for a little walk on the block? That's normally what people do when they first meet, right? At least that's what I normally do. I like to gradually get to know somebody, and then ease into a deeper conversation, something more meaningful. Or then maybe if it's going well, we can sit down somewhere, we can get a drink or some food. It depends, see how it goes. So I said, should we just go for like a little walk around the block? I said, and take a look, see what's happening. Like, see if there's anywhere nice to go for, maybe a drink or something. She's like, okay. So we left the mall, we turned the corner, literally 30 seconds in. I was like, so would you like to get a drink somewhere or something? She was like, it's okay. I thought she was just being, nice, like polite. So next week, walking down and I'm talking away. So how's your day? She was like, you already asked me that? I was like, yeah, no, I asked you that. I said, and you didn't answer. That's why I'm asking you again. I was like, maybe you didn't hear me the first time. I was just wondering, having small talk. I was like, what did you do? Did you get up too much today then? She's like, no, nothing. And I was like, okay. So I waited. She didn't even come back with a question for me, talking about keeping the conversation going. I was like, oh my God, well, this is more difficult than I ever imagined. So I was like, have you ate anything? Have you had your dinner? She was like, no. I was like, oh, so maybe you want to get something to eat? She was like, it's okay. I'm okay. For some reason, I kept giving a benefit of the doubt. And I kept saying, well, I was like, I don't mind because I've had no dinner too. We can maybe get something small if you prefer. She was like, I said, I'm fine. I was like, okay. And I'm thinking, Jesus. I was like, normally I do not drink alcohol on a first date. I thought, but for this one, I need alcohol. I thought because she's starting to get under my skin. I don't know. I just thought, manners is so important. I mean, don't get me wrong. I wasn't exactly picture perfect, was I? Arriving 5 minutes late. Again, I must emphasize, she already knew that in advance. I mean, way in advance. I told her many times and we still messaged each other all the way there. So she was well aware and she understood the situation, or at least I thought she did anyways. So I thought, we're going to have to go for a drink. I thought, I've got to drink alcohol. I thought, Jesus, this is too much for me. She's too serious, She's just too serious. So I was like, I tell you what, I was like, let's get a drink somewhere. She said, I'm fine. She went, I already told you I'm fine. And then I realized, I thought, well, you know what it is? I thought, I'm definitely not buying her a drink now. I thought, I'm not buying her alcohol or something. I thought, I'm not paying them prices on her. I thought, because now already on my impression of her, it's already going down. I thought, so at the very, very most, I will buy her maybe a cup of coffee. So I said, well, look, there's a coffee shop right there. I was like, why don't I pop in? I was like, we can get a cup of tea, a cup of coffee or a drink or whatever it is, a snack. She was like, I already told you, I don't want a drink. It's fine. I said, well, look, I'm getting a drink. By this point, I was just having enough of her. And I was like, look, I'm getting a drink. So if you want, you can sit there, you can order a drink, or you can get a drink of water as far as I care. I said, but I'm getting a drink. So she was like, she looked a bit taken back, to be honest. By this point, like I say, I had enough. I was like, who is this girl? She's in her mid-30s and she's maybe a 4 and she's acting, not even a 4. I'd say she's a 3.5. She's a 3.5 and she's acting like a 10. And she's in her mid-30s and she's acting like she's in her 20s. I don't know. And she's a receptionist. I just thought, from what kind of standpoint is she, coming at? You know what I mean? What exactly does she think she has to offer? Now, I'm not saying a woman needs to offer, well, not something financial. A woman doesn't have to offer something financial, you know what I mean? Or materialistic. In fact, us guys, we usually prefer it when women aren't like that, to be honest. Makes them more innocent, That's what a man wants in a woman, most often enough. And I didn't really care about all that, but at the same time, I thought, how many passes do I have to give this person? You know what I mean? I was like, not only all that, but she literally, her personality sucks. It literally sucks. It's disgusting. Her attitude, her manners. I thought, if this is a first date, You know, usually when you meet somebody for the first time, normally you get like the best version of them. Usually it's false, we all know that. Usually it's like the fake version, and time will tell who they really are. You know, that's how you see what they really like. Once it's been like a few months in, usually it's more than a few months, usually it's around maybe 6 months in. Sometimes it takes a year, it all depends on the person, but usually it's many, many months in, and they can't keep up the whole charade, they can't keep the mask on forever. Eventually the mask slips, you know, and you see what they really like. But I thought, on the first date, if this is how ugly she is as a person on the first date, imagine what she's really like. I was like, no wonder she's single in her mid-30s with like such a bad attitude like that. I mean, she can't even have the decency to have some basic manners. You know what I mean? Especially on a first date. Like literally, a guy's asking to pay, but he's not even asking, he's offering to take you out on a date. He's offering to buy you a drink. And that's your attitude. I mean, that's crazy. And I thought, you know what it is? Let's say that was a big deal for her. Like being a little bit late on the first date. Even though, again, she knew. Like, it was such a small, trivial thing. Imagine in the future when there's more serious things happen, like, or if it happened again. Like, who does she think she is, you know? By this point, I just lost all respect for her. So anyways, we're sitting inside. So I thought, oh, maybe, you know, she's had a stressful day. Once we sit down, we'll have a little chat. So anyways, I got my drink, I'm sitting down. And I thought, I'm just not going to talk. I'm going to let her talk first. I thought, because I'm tired of trying to keep this conversation going. Actually, forget keeping the conversation going. I'm tired of even trying to start a conversation with this chick. So I thought, now she can try for one. So I just sat there in silence, you know. Mastering silence is an actual skill, you know. Many people don't realize that. Mastering silence is a skill in itself. Most people usually fill in the gaps. They can't stand silence, so they just talk. They just mutter things, they mention things, they talk too much, they mention too much, they talk too much about their personal life, they share too many secrets, too many things about themselves, just to fill in the gaps of the silence, you know. So I thought, okay, I'll master the silence, it's fine, I'll let her talk. And I mean, like, we were literally sitting there for about 5 minutes just staring at each other. I mean, 5 minutes doesn't sound like a long time, but if you're just sitting there facing somebody directly, especially on like a first date, for 5 minutes, that 5 minutes is grueling, let me tell you. So eventually she's not even talking, and honestly by this point I just thought, what a waste of my time. I literally came to the opposite side of the city. I even rushed to get there, you know. I was rushing to get there because I didn't want to be any more late than what I already was. And I just thought, all this was for nothing. I literally got dressed up for honestly, for nothing, man. For nothing. Why? Why did I waste all my time? I just felt like an idiot. I thought, I dressed up for nothing. I prepared for nothing. I was looking forward to this for nothing. I was like, what a waste of my time. And now I've got to go all the way back for nothing. So, again, I said to her, I was like, so, what do you do then? Have you been up to much recently? And she was like, you've already asked me that? That's like the third time you've asked me that? Honestly, by this point, I said, actually, I asked, what have you done today? This time I'm asking, what have you been up to recently? I said, but I tell you what, it doesn't even matter. I said, I'm going now. Take care. And I just got up and I left. Honestly, you should have seen the girl's face. Her jaw just dropped. She looked stunned like that. I just got up. I just literally walked out. I just went, goodbye. And honestly, like, you could just see her face. She's like, stunned. Now, I got outside, and honestly, I'm not even joking. I pulled out my phone, found her name, delete, bye. I just looked up at the sky, and I just kind of laughed at myself, because I've seen and experienced a lot of things in my time, but that is something I never like would have expected. I was never prepared for something like that. I never thought a first date could be that ugly in my entire life. I never thought there was women out there so rude. I mean, sometimes you might see first dates, the show, and you might see some bad first dates, but you know, you never expect it to happen to yourself. And I honestly just looked up at the sky and I just laughed. And I was like, it's like the Truman Show, this. I was just laughing. I was like, my life is like the Truman Show. I was like, did somebody set this up? Is the cameras or something? Because this is one big joke. Honestly, it was like some kind of script. Now, that, let me tell you, was the worst date of my life.